everybody. Welcome to Spilling the IT. That music wasn't great. I literally had 20 great tracks and compiled the whole thing, and that's the one that starts playing. All right, what's going on? How you doing, Adam?
Good, good. Having a great day. Good kickoff to the week. Strong start. Strong start to the week.
You got energy. Yeah, very alive. Did you get like a good workout in this morning?
Good workout, good run. Got some miles in. Just feeling strong. Did a little prep session. Been chaotic a couple weeks, so I decided to do like a Sunday evening prep session to get after what the priorities were for the following week. And so far I'm sitting there knocking off the items on the list. Helps you kind of tackle through things. So it's been good. It's been
Nice.
good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, prep is the best. Like, did you make a sandwich the night before? Put a little bag of chips, add some grapes, put it in your lunch.
Yeah. I got the
suitcase?
lunch pail, little lunch sack for, eat at the desk. It's good. It's good.
Mhm.
You stay focused. I was talking more about like, meetings and contracts and that things, but yeah, the bologna sandwiches also
Okay.
important.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I get it. It's all very important. It's all very important. And
Yeah.
classically, at your office, they have that gigantic I-beam that you all sit on and eat your lunch out of.
hmm
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Just like the 1920s.
Hmm.
Good times.
Just.
Yep.
You know what's funny is I didn't even think about that. Adam, I-beam, that's structure. Today,
That wasn't intentional?
no, was not
Oh,
intentional at all. Zero
well,
intention.
roll with it. Roll with
Adam,
it.
eventually,
Segue away.
I just say enough and some of it starts to come together and make sense. So today we're talking about IT infrastructure. So, uh, yeah, which, Adam, huge topic. I'll be
hmm
honest. I like to preface this show with like, I don't know nearly the amount that you do, and I'm super glad you're here because I think IT infrastructure is a really interesting topic. I'm actually honestly really excited to learn more about it. So, for an end user, Adam, what is IT infrastructure?
So the way Quest identifies IT infrastructure and how we kind of define it is it's the physical assets that make technology work, right? So it's the structured cabling, right? It's the physical data center. It's the things that have low voltage and high voltage going through them. It's your data center, it's your cabling, it's your badge access, it's your video surveillance. It's really anything tangible that is required as part of a solution, and that's constantly changing. You hear buzzwords like Internet of Things, IoT, all sorts of different edge compute, all sorts of different kind of descriptions of okay, the physical assets are going to reside somewhere, and they're
Hmm.
going to live. They're going to live. They're going to live somewhere, and in order for all this technology to work you got to have IT infrastructure. You have to have the actual physical infrastructure to make these things operate.
Got it. So it is a lot of a, a lot of different things that make up IT infrastructure.
Yeah, it's basically the nuts and bolts of our day-to-day life, helping to deliver different technology solutions. It's not necessarily the cutting edge aspect of things, but in
Hmm.
some regards it is things that enable internet, the IoT platforms and options, as well as edge compute and just good old fashioned structured cabling, getting data and bits of light from one point to another.
Have you? So I agree with you. I don't think a lot of people the first thing they wake up and think of is like, oh man, I get to work on IT infrastructure today.
Yeah.
But have you ever met somebody who like really loves um, infrastructure and just kind of like systems and how they all come together and work?
Well, there are definitely different verticals within IT infrastructure. So I don't know, audio visual is one of them, right? So AV, video conferencing, doing the cool displays, digital signage, audio visual. You can find some real passionate people who know. I mean, so our AV team,
They
these
love
guys
it.
can nerd out on this stuff about like, mirrored edges on TVs to make it a solid panel display across, I don't know, the average TV size on some of these digital signage deployments are just walls of really cool interactive displays. And then another area that I love nerding out and geeking out with these guys is the security folks, the guys who and the people who are focused on video surveillance and access control and monitoring and alerting on actual physical presence
Hmm.
over IP-based video surveillance. Those, people can get really, really passionate about, okay, where do we need to secure the perimeter? How do we need to do motion detection? How do we do site selection? How do we kind of, control critical access points? We learned that building out our data centers, right? We learned critical access points, access control, going through all that, building out our data centers and building out data centers for some of our clients. But yeah, there are people who get really, really passionate about the security aspect of it as well.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to just kind of sit and like listen because they are so excited and you start to kind of feel yourself really getting pulled into it and being like, "Oh yeah, I never even thought of
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
fascinating." And there are so many aspects to it when you do sit down and talk to somebody who really loves um, the topic. You start to realize this is a very complex
It's a craft.
situation.
It's a craft. I mean, you can get um, there's a person on our team that I'm thinking of right now that could probably fill like 4 or 5 of these half-hour sessions just talking about, cable matrix and rack level diagrams and like color coding and tagging, tagging all the different cables in the back of the rack appropriately and making sure that they're all inventoried appropriately and documented on their diagram appropriately and those perfectly cut, Cat 6e cables that are punched into the back. I don't know if you've seen those wire diagrams and people post like before and after, like the rat's nest of like all the crossing, all the terrible things, and then they completely clean
Yes.
it up and it's perfect and it's just beautiful. Um,
It's like
that's
a geek's Pinterest board.
yes, exactly. Geek Pinterest, yeah. So they do that, and some of those they're the way that they do them, it is actually kind of almost art in the sense of how disciplined it is and well put together. So that's another IT infrastructure, just doing basic cable design. I mean, you don't think about it, but if you don't have your cables and your assets inventoried appropriately on your devices and your servers and your switches and all that can really ruin your day
Hmm.
if you pull the wrong cable. And you can really mess up an application or an entire network.
Have you run
Um,
into clients and I know from what I'm doing here, like setting everything up to like film this, I got cables everywhere. And
mhm.
do you ever find that we work with clients who kind of got into the habit of saying, "I'll get to it later," because I do that. Like I behind this camera, Adam, it is a mess of cables that I have said, "I'll get to it later." Um, but later never comes. And suddenly you're like, oh, I don't understand where this goes and why it goes over here. And then um, it can get ugly real fast. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We see that all the time. I mean, cable management and the discipline around that it's something that some people take pride in,
Hmm.
and it's something that some folks are just kind of like, it works, you know. But it can sneak up on you. Uh, I uh, I got a new LG, screen, like a wide screen, and I installed it on my desk at headquarters, and I was pretty proud of it. And I kind of bought a little jump box and I have a laptop and everything plugged into it. And Vladimir, who runs our infrastructure team, came by and he saw some cables kind of going across my desk. And Vlad's a great dude, Ukrainian descent, so I apologize for the poor impersonation. But he's like, who who set this up for you? And I was like, I did. What do you think, Vlad? Pretty good, huh? He's like, we'll do this later. And I come back the next day, beautiful. Got the little the little Velcro things all tightened up on it. It's all through the one little spot, and it's all cleaned up. It was great. It was
Yeah.
great. Vlad, he couldn't have that that type of disorder,
He's
unorganized cable
good.
matrix in this thing. Yeah. So
He is
his
good. He's a
team,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, and his team takes it really seriously on that type of thing. So it does take a little bit of discipline to manage that stuff, and you know, folks like me who just kind of do it, um, not quite as disciplined. He definitely helps square it away. So.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever invite him over to my home because he would be so disgusted. He'd be like, I can't even enjoy dinner now. Look at that room; it's horrible."
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of topics. So we'll kind of go through 'em one by one. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So data and voice cabling. Since we're talking about cabling, we'll dive right into like data and voice cabling. So, what do you want people to know about data and voice cabling that could help them?
Yeah, so we do site designs, and one of the things that a lot of people don't necessarily plan for is power over Ethernet and pushing out PoE to your phones or to your desktops or to your users or to your wireless access points. So we help folks kind of build out the ability to do data and voice drops all over their offices, all over their retail locations, and we build out that infrastructure and also make sure that it's getting powered appropriately and you have the appropriate switches and the appropriate PUE in your IDF closets around your campus. So we do that full build. Takes a little bit of time. We work with general contractors or help people who are doing the site selection or low voltage cabling folks. We do all that design and the actual implementation. So it's a big part of getting any type of site design correct. You got to get your voice and your cabling. You can do a drop to each desk. It's just kind of basically getting those cables dropped in the appropriate location. So.
And how, like size wise, for the customer, client,
Mm-hmm.
and end user, what do we tend to work with? Is there any?
Really, really kind of all across the board. We've done full campus redesigns for, large organizations that are rebuilding their campus environments. So, a couple thousand users will
Mm-hmm,
help do all the cable matrix and design all the IDFs and kind of build out the whole campus.
mm-hmm,
And then we also do simple DMARC extensions. So carriers coming in and dropping in a new internet circuit, but they're going to hand off at a certain location and they need help extending that last bit of fiber into the building or into the client's, meet me room or MDF. We do those simple little extensions too. So it's everything across the board from like a full campus build to no, I just need some help getting from point A to point B.
mm-hmm.
So
Great,
yeah,
cool, thanks.
yeah,
Um, so I know these are, like you said, we have people that could fill up 4 episodes, and I know we're kind of like, hey, here's 2 minutes, kind of dive into each one of them. But I think
yeah.
it's helpful. So fiber optic installations and solutions. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so running fiber takes a little bit of you got to do some splicing, you got to do some design. This is all optical solution stuff, right? So we're doing wavelengths. We're passing bandwidth on either what some people would consider dark fiber or private networks.
Mm-hmm.
We work with different organizations in the healthcare space and higher education. A lot of these organizations will have like private, fiber networks on their campuses and in their buildings from hospital to hospital, doctors' offices, things like that. So we'll build out actual fiber rings and networks for folks. So pulling glass, building conduit, doing stringing aerial cabling, as well as basically helping them light those previously dark strands of fiber
Mm-hmm.
and connect different sites. So we're in the data center business ourselves, so we do this for our own internal environment. We have 2 locations in the Sacramento, Northern California region, both outside the floodplain, which is fantastic. And we have some clients who represent, some pretty cool options from dual site recovery between those 2 locations. And we run that all across our own connected fiber. So these are complex. These are a lot of fun to do. We're helping organizations like Verizon and AT&T with some of their 5G rollout initiatives and those types of things. So pulling fiber, doing that type of work, big part of our business.
Nice. Great.
Yeah.
Video conferencing. I know we've been doing a lot of this recently too.
Yeah. This one is definitely growing. People are always looking for, especially now, post-COVID world.
Hmm.
People are looking to implement video conferencing solutions, connect without traveling. We do things like Teams integration and Zoom rooms and things like that, where you're creating the ability to kind of bring people together across video. Um, in person's great too, but video conferencing and getting the AV correct and simplified in those rooms or for those users. Everyone hates trying to get audio visual equipment to work. It's a
Hmm.
nightmare. By the time um, you get the meeting scheduled, you get the conference link up, and all of a sudden some kind of snafu is happening. Um, we try to eliminate that, and roll out different room automation tools, keeping it very, very simple for folks that can be in a small suite, large conference room, anything like that. We're doing video conferencing suites as well. So,
That's a great point about simplicity. Like, I think when you're talking about all this stuff, a lot of the terms and everything, it makes it seem very, very complex. But I would say our goal is to give the client whatever they need and want, and very frequently that's like the simplest way that we can like bring everybody together. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
yeah, so you want to keep it simple. You want the end user to have a experience of like, hey, I turn on the desktop, I turn on the monitor, the camera's operational, I push this button, launches the meeting. There's a lot of components in the back end that help make that happen, but
Hmm.
basically you want a video solution that is super simple. I mean, people talk a lot of trash about Zoom and their interface, right? Because it's super simple and kind of they got in a little bit of trouble around security
Hmm.
when the pandemic first hit. Um, but the reason I think they exploded so so quickly and ramped up is because it was it was stupid easy
Yeah.
just to launch a Zoom session. Like everyone, I mean, it became its own, it's got its own definition in the dictionary these days about a Zoom session. Cisco and WebEx and Citrix and GoToMeeting and all these other platforms, great platforms, but for whatever reason, Zoom just made it stupid simple to
Hmm.
launch a Zoom session, and everybody was familiar with that. So um, what we are trying to do is match that simplicity with the end user with, okay, we want to make sure things are secure. So you got to balance those when you're doing business to business kind of deployments.
I think it's a great point about Zoom just being stupid simple. By the way, just a side note, Adam, if you ever read a book, Stupid Simple, that's a good title. That's going to catch
Stupid simple.
eyeballs. Yeah. You're walking by Barnes and Noble and see a book called Stupid Simple, you'd probably pick it up and look. I would.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's that old keep it simple, stupid concept,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Kiss.
Kiss.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not as
Um
not as warm or friendly for our Gen Zers out there, but you'll be okay. You'll get a hug.
um access controls. I do not have a snazzy graphic for this one, but
Fail,
I know.
fail.
I know.
Yep,
I'll work
yep.
on it here on the
Nope.
back end.
Access control is kind of like that physical, a little bit of physical security we were talking about earlier. So, access control around entry points to secure areas.
Hmm.
So you can use things like dual factor authentication, code sent to your phone, badges, right? So everyone's got the little key fob to get into a certain part of the office or into the data center. You gotta, we use biometrics and badge access and things like that. But you can integrate that with your video surveillance system.
Hmm.
And you can basically know who's on your property at any given time. When did they come into your property? You can search your database for, different entry points, different users. Maybe someone's sharing their badge that shouldn't be. All those types of things are pretty critical as far as securing your environment. We're doing this in schools. We're doing this in large office environments. We're doing this in data centers. We do this for ourselves, for our data centers as well.
Yeah, when
Yep.
I think I think one of the great things that everything we're talking about, we do it for ourselves as well. So it's like we know how to do this because we're doing it for ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those opportunities where you get to you kind of build out your use case, and
Hmm.
then you learn from yourself as the consumer of it. So it's like, I didn't like how that felt on the deployment, or I didn't quite like this piece here. I bet we can improve, that type of deployment. So it's you build it out, you practice it, and then it becomes an offering. Clients ask for help with it.
And Tim loves simple. So if we can make Tim happy doing these things, then we're doing something right.
Yes, and sales solves everything.
And finally, wireless upgrades or wireless analysis and upgrades.
So in the wireless world, this one's a lot of fun. We just had a project where we rolled out, and we're in the process of rolling out a managed wireless solution. This kind of falls into managed services, but it also crosses into the IT infrastructure. So I wanted to bring it up. Um, every environment you go into is different, and wireless, radio frequencies, you can be in the middle of nowhere, Montana, or you can be in Manhattan with thousands of signals crossing each other. You're going to need to evaluate, what signal range is going to work and how much area your APs can cover. And it's not always a slam dunk. So we have some ways to do this. We get site designs, we walk through with folks, we do a full kind of wireless design effort and show them, okay, in order to cover your environment, you need this amount of APs and this amount of bandwidth, and here's how it's going to work. We're doing this right now for organization, about 140 sites. Really excited about it. The cool thing about this one is we're integrating all the technology that makes the solution work from a wireless standpoint,
Hmm.
all of the PoE switching, all of the cabling infrastructure, right? So doing all the site designs and planning and building out all the APs,
Hmm.
as well as bundling in all of the circuits and services that come together with that, and kind of giving it to the customer on a going back to our simple thing is, here's how much it costs per access point per month, right? So you're not having to figure out the build costs with the hardware costs with the professional service installation. We're taking all those building blocks and putting them together, on a cost per AP basis, that this customer is then in turn turning around and creating their own revenue stream, basically billing for that service at their different locations. So it's pretty exciting. We're giving someone a simple we're taking the complex, and I might not be doing the best job of doing this, but we're taking the complex and bringing it down to a simple deliverable
Hmm.
where our customer can then, add that to their cost of goods sold and generate revenue from it. So it's a lot of fun, and it actually is pretty much all IT infrastructure except for the software layer that kind of makes the APs and the wireless, function.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah,
great.
no, that's a good one.
I hadn't heard
That's a
about
good
that.
one.
Wow,
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a lot of, it's gonna be that's a good deal.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
Um, anything else? I know we're coming up on a half an hour. Anything else you want to? Anything about IT infrastructure? Because I know there's a lot that you like to kind of talk about.
IT infrastructure is a lot of fun. It kind of bridges the two worlds of security and physical assets and engineering. But like everything that we do, it's the idea of, okay, what's the outcome? What outcome is the client looking for? What would you like our help with? How can we help? And then we just take those building blocks and put them together. Some people just want, I just need someone who can splice the fiber together and help me connect this ring.
Hmm.
Great, here you go. That's from our IT infrastructure team. We'll get them out there. We'll get them scheduled for you. And then some like the example we just talked about. They want the full boat. They want everything amortized, and they want to deliver it as a service. So, and then everything in between. Those are exciting. It's customer driven. Where can we help? So
Nice, and like you said, it's everything in between. So if you're out there, you're watching this, and you need some IT infrastructure help, maybe you don't like organizing your cables, like reach out to us, and you'll see a link in the description. So yeah, real quick, Adam, before we take off though, what help the people out? What's worth watching? What's good on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, podcasts? What should people do this week?
This week I don't have anything too new. We talked last week. I mentioned, I'm about 10 years behind. I'm watching Bosch on Prime, and I love the markets. I love like the trading. I'm horrible at the trading. I'm at the trading. No, I'm bad at it. But I love to listen to CNBC and the guys on Fast Money. I think I've definitely lost more than I've made ever, and
Well,
especially if the IRS is watching, 100%. But no, the On the Tape is a fun podcast if you're into that kind of thing. It's called On the Tape.
and that's by the Fast Money guys.
Guy Adami and a couple other dudes who are on the Fast Money trade.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
You've
Guy,
mentioned this show
yeah,
before.
yeah. So I'm a big fan. They're it's good stuff.
Okay, so it's funny. You mentioned you're 10 years behind. Adam, I'm 17 years behind. We are a couple outdated people because this week I watched The Terminal with Tom Hanks. Have you
Oh,
seen The Terminal?
yeah, where he's like stuck at the airport or something.
It's so good. It's so good.
Is
It
it?
so good. If you
Hmm.
haven't seen The Terminal, everybody, you got until August 31st on Netflix. I mean, you can rent it any place, but it's available on Netflix right now. Netflix doesn't sponsor us, but I will say this: and
I'm
Catherine
open to it.
Zeta-Jones, she was fantastic as well.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah,
Have you seen
yeah.
it,
Haven't seen it. Have not seen it. No.
Adam? Do yourself a favor. Do yourself
Yeah.
a favor tonight. Treat yourself to The Terminal. You'll see that it's over 2 hours. You'll see like, oh, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes. Why would I do that? Why would I watch this? It's worth it.
All right. I might check it out. Probably about
You're
a
not going to check
5%
it out,
chance
are
of
you?
that.
You're not going
No,
to check
I'm
it
not.
out.
I'm
Don't lie to me, Adam.
totally lying. I'm
Don't
not.
lie to my face. You're not going to check
Not
it
gonna
out.
watch it, man. There's only so much time in the day, and that ain't cutting it. So,
No, the question is, are you spending it wisely? The Terminal, yes. It's a wise choice.
yeah, I spend enough time in terminals, traveling myself, waiting for flights. I'm good at watching Tom Hanks hang out eating popcorn and Nathan's hot dogs. I'm good.
Well, Adam, you sound like a fool right now. There's no popcorn or Nathan hot dogs in the entire film.
All right. Well,
There's crackers. There's ketchup and mustard
good.
on crackers. I don't want to spoil anything, though. All right. Anything else, Adam?
I think we're tapped. I think we have covered the gamut. We've given the people what they want, and I think we're good.
Cool. We'll be back. We'll be back next week. Spill the IT. If you have questions, you can always leave them in the comments. Yeah. Adam, thanks for joining me today. This was fun.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Always a good time.
All right. See you guys later.
Have a good week.